about a potential center back partner of yours, Chris Richards, younger player, starting to play consistently now in the Bundesliga at Hoffenheim. Hasn't played in a World Cup qualifier yet. Obviously, wasn't there in September, but I wonder your impressions of him overall in this camp, and what you think it could be like to play next to him if he's a guy who is selected to start next to you. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's my first time meeting him in person. Obviously, he's a great player. He's a great person, funny guy. So it's been great, getting to know him these past, few days. But yeah, he's a great player all around. So.
Thank you, Paul. Next, we go to Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Miles. Just curious how having played against Jamaica in the Gold Cup for you personally will add to your comfort level against them tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously, getting to play a team before somewhat recently helps because, I get to understand what they like to do, offensively, defensively, things like this. But right now it's just about focusing on us and how we can, beat this team come tomorrow. So I think we're all ready and prepared.
Next will be Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Hi, Miles. Looking back to last month, what did playing 93 times in 7 days take out of your body? Was it any different than normal, any more sore? How did you recover any differently than you would do if you had 3, 4, 5 days rest?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, you play 3 games in 7 days, it can be tough on your body, but we've got a great staff and, sports science staff. We got a great, medical team to get us all right, get us all, mentally and physically ready for the game if, I'm decided to play. And I think I always felt like I was physically ready when the time came.
Next will be Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thank you, Michael. Miles, thank you for the time. You mentioned that you've just been getting to know Chris Richards. How much time does it take for a pair of center backs to develop chemistry, for a World Cup qualifying game? And, how much of an adjustment for you was it to go from playing alongside one style of center back to another?
Yeah, I think as professionals, you have to adapt to players that you play with, players that you play against. So I think I'm constantly adapting. And it's just a matter of, getting to learn what players like to do, offensively, defensively, things like this. And, just go out there and fight for each other. And it's going to be a tough game, but it's just about, grinding and fighting for each other.
Next, we'll go to Tyler Feldman from KVUE in Austin.
Hey, Miles, thanks for just asking about the excitement of playing in Austin and what it's been like in the city so far with a brand new stadium, new practice facility, and the overall thoughts of what you've experienced in Austin.
Yeah, I mean, Austin's a great city. We played here once before with the national team, and I thought it was a great atmosphere. Obviously, the stadium's new, the training facility's new, so they're both great. And I'm definitely excited to get out there.
Next will be Charles Bone from MLSsoccer.com.
Hi, Miles. This week in the lead up to this camp, Greg and now some of the other players have talked a lot about being more direct in the attack and tactically. We've heard the word verticality a lot. I was wondering what that means for you, your roles and assignments on the pitch, and maybe what the preparation has been like this week. Is it different? What is your element to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the training sessions have focused in on, trying to play more, through the opponent rather than around them. And I think with the few sessions we've had, we've done a good job in that. And also, it's just about, defensively trying to keep them pinned in their defensive half and, as a center back, try to win your duels. So I think that's pretty much what we've been, focusing in on.
Next will be Claudio Villalobos.
Thank you, Michael. Miles, I'm curious about how you guys, on preparation, in terms of what
Claudia, we lost you.
I'm here.
We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Miles, I'm curious about in your preparation, when you think about in Jamaica and the strengths that they might have in front, what do you think that you need to be more aware of in terms of when they're attacking you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a very physical, strong team, that likes to counter, likes to break. They've got some very fast players on their team. So as a center back, it's a matter of, trying to lock them in and trying to, put out any fires in terms of counterattacks and just focus in, for every second of the game for the full 90 minutes plus. So.
Next will be Sam Stayskull.
Thank you, Michael. Miles, thank you. Hope you're doing well. I'm just wondering, you guys obviously, it was mentioned earlier that you guys played Jamaica in the Gold Cup a couple of months ago. It's a slightly different group, but some of the same forwards that you played against in that match are back in the team and probably likely to see the field again tomorrow. What do you take from that game coming into this one in terms of their tendencies, their style, their tactics?
Yeah, like I said, I think they're, a strong, fast team that likes to break. So it's up to us, to stay, sharp defensively and with our positioning to ensure that these counters, can't start to anything dangerous.
Next will be Sean McCaffrey.
Thank you, Bob, for taking the time to do this. Just a quick question. Coach has come from MLS, so he's a year or so removed from it or more now. How much of an advantage do you think it is that he was in the league, the players that are coming from the league and were in the league during this time, and that they know, as I mentioned, their tendency to want the ball played in front of them, to them, left-footed, right-footed, things like that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely an advantage, or just, for us, kind of working on it, trying to get better in just these last few days. But I think we're very prepared, and we understand it's going to be a very tough game. It's going to be a physical game, but it's up to us to, dial it in for every single second of the match. And I think if we do that, we should, hopefully get a good result.
Next we'll go to Nicholas Mendela from NBC Sports.
Thanks. Miles, what's the challenge with a team like Jamaica that I think they have something like 12 players that they've taken over from Europe who have under 8 caps, I think is the number, and they haven't necessarily worked that well together, and while in some ways that can be an advantage given how much you guys know each other, what's the challenge in having to adapt for a team that you may not know what system they plan?
Yeah, I think Greg prepares our team, very well with, focusing in on how we're going to play and understanding if, the opponent does something tactically, he's going to change our, the way we will play and things like this. But, yeah, it's up to us to just really focus in on how we play. And, it starts with our intensity and then the tactics will come. But from us personally, we just got to, fight from the first minute.
With a couple questions about Jamaica, just one point of information. 3 players on the U.S. roster with Jamaican ties, Tim Weah, Mark McKenzie, and Sean Johnson, all having at least one parent who were Jamaican born. We will go to Chris Tavares.
Hey, Miles. With this set of 3 matches of qualifying coming up, how important is it to get off to a good start on Thursday to kind of set the tone for this 3-match run?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think the whole team is really just focused in on this match. We understand it's a big game coming tomorrow, and I think if we give it our all, fight, starts with intensity, and, if we actually go out there and give it absolutely everything as if it's a final, some good, good things will come, so.
Last question for Miles comes from John Lupo.
Hey, Miles, so Michael just mentioned about Sean Johnson. What is it like to play behind a goalkeeper of Sean's caliber?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have 3 great goalkeepers on our roster right now. So, obviously, playing with all these guys that you get to compete against in the league is fun. They're all great guys. So, that's pretty much all I got to say.
Our last question comes from Kevin Baxter.
Okay, thanks for your time. When you look at this Jamaican team, what I know you've talked a little bit about it, but you look at a team they've got 1 point, they're winless. How do you avoid overlooking them? And I know it's World Cup qualifying, but still, you have Panama coming up, Mexico next month. How do you keep focused on the team in front of you?
Yeah, I think it's just the mentality of the guys out there. I think all of us are, solely focused on this game tomorrow, and we understand the intensity and the grit that it's going to take to get a result that we want. So I think we're all dialed in at the moment, and it's just about us, I think. So.
Thank you, Miles. We appreciate it. We'll be back in a couple minutes with U.S. head coach Gregg Berhalter. Sorry, folks, you may not have been able to hear me. You didn't miss much. Gregg's here. We're getting started. Stephen Goff, go ahead.
Hey, Gregg. Thanks for your time.
Hey, Stephen.
Checking on Eunice, see where his best results are, and assuming he gets through this, what you see coming into this first qualifying window for him.
Yeah, so we're just waiting the results of the PCR test, and we'll see. I think it was a precaution that we needed to take based on an inconclusive test this morning, and that's just all part of what we're dealing with. In terms of his role, we want to see him on the field. We want to get him on the field and see what he can do. We know he's got a ton of talent. He's been doing well for Valencia, playing every week, although in a wide position. We see him more as a central player. But, I'm sure over the course of 3 games we'll get to see him.
Next will be Paul Kennedy from Soccer America.
Thank you, Michael, and good to see you, Greg. Can you talk about Brendan Aronson and Tim Weah, 2 guys who you'll have here who have been having some very good games recently in Europe and will take on bigger roles with both Christian and Gio now available?
Yeah, they both faced off in the Champions League game last week. It was great to see them playing against each other. And they've both been having good seasons. Timmy, has had a couple assists lately. Got fouled for a penalty. He's been dangerous. And Brendan, has been playing a ton of minutes, but really active in the top of a diamond of a 4-4-2. Has been doing a great job as well. They're doing really well in the Champions League, which is fun to see. And in the league they're blowing it up again. So he's doing a great job, and hoping that they can make a similar impact with us, especially with their verticality, with their speed, with their ability to press.
Next will be Chris Bills.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Greg. Welcome back to Austin.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get a feel for how you guys are enjoying, being here, the facilities. I know there's a desire from ownership to make this, a potential place that you guys want to come back to, maybe even early next year. Is that what makes a good venue for you? And is that a possibility that you think that if things go well on tomorrow, if Austin could be considered for games down the road, important qualifiers like this one?
Yeah, so I think for a couple things we're looking for is the training ground. Having an all-inclusive type training ground where there's enough recovery facilities, weight facilities, the fields are good enough. We're eating in this facility, and so from a training ground standpoint, Austin's been incredible. We were able to kind of take over the training ground in the mornings. They've been training in the afternoon, Austin FC, and really have the run of the place. And it's a first-class facility. It's nice when the guys, our team, can feel some comfort in going to a training ground, getting change, having lunch there, doing recovery, and then leaving for the afternoon. So that part's been great. Second thing we look at is the stadium and the type of environment that can be created in the stadium. And we know Austin, is crazy. One of the better atmospheres in Major League Soccer, and we're hoping to have a similar type of atmosphere tomorrow night. For us, it's about getting the fans there early enough. For the national team, the anthem is a really special moment. It's a moment when you just refocus on everything you're doing and understanding that you're doing it for your country. So I think those are some of the things. But this is certainly a great city, and we look forward to the game tomorrow.
Next will be Michael DeCourcy from Sporting News.
Yes, Greg, I was wondering if you have made a decision about the starting goalkeeper for tomorrow, and if so, what went into that decision?
So we're working through, the final lineup now this afternoon, and we'll see. We'll keep you guys posted. But, in general, what I'd say is that, we're very confident in all three of our goalies in camp. They've all done extremely well this season when they've played, and they're a big part of what we're doing. So, it's going to be a difficult choice, but, we're confident and comfortable that we'll make the right one.
And by keep you posted, we mean about 75 minutes before kickoff tomorrow night. Next will be Grant Wall.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Grant.
This is a Jamaica team that in the first game last month at Mexico really gave Mexico a hard time in that game before losing late. When you have 3 games in a window like this, how are you preparing for the first game as compared to how you might prepare for a team in the third game when they might just be exhausted like we saw with Honduras in the third game last month?
Well, I think part of the exhaustion, Grant, was us wearing them down in Honduras. I don't think it's just a product of them being tired. It was part of the strategy to absorb a little. We knew they were going to expend a lot of energy pressing, a lot of energy on counterattacks. So we knew that would have a cumulative effect on them. But regarding Jamaica, you're exactly right. This is a difficult team. I was in the room, I think, when I think Kevin asked Miles, about Jamaica and, insinuating that it's going to be an easy game. It's going to be far from that. They pushed Mexico to the absolute limit in Mexico City at altitude. Mexico scoring close to injury time in that game to get the winner. And it's a difficult team to break down. So, the way we're preparing for this game, Grant, and you've heard a lot of our guys say the same thing, is, our focus right now is on this first game, and that's it. When we're done with that game, we'll pick up the pieces and we'll evaluate the next one. But right now, the focus is just on Jamaica.
Next will be Ivis Galarcep from SBI Soccer.
I want to ask you about some defensive questions. First, Anthony Robinson, his kind of evolution in the national team. He had some rough times early on, but now, obviously, in September, he played very well. What have you thought about just how he's continued to improve and evolve and kind of grow as a player? And as far as center backs go, you have a group of young center backs in this camp. What do you like about your young center backs? Especially, they're going to have some challenges in this window, but now that you've had them in training, what do you like when you see them and what they bring to the table?
Yeah, and Ivis, you don't have to be defensive when you ask the questions. You can just ask them.
As soon as I said it,
I'm just messing with you, bud. You know that. No, listen, you highlighted it. Anthony's been really good. Really good. When you think about this first set of qualifiers, having an assist against Canada, really nice assist, having a goal against Honduras and making a big impact against them. Also, his form in the league has been pretty good. So he's in good form right now. We hope to continue that. He was hobbled a little bit by an injury last week that kept him out of a game midweek, and so that's a little bit of a concern, but we're going to check tonight, and we think he'll be good to go. Regarding the center backs, it's a tough one, right? Because they are young, they do lack experience, but the only way to get experience is by actually getting on the field. And when you think about Chris Richards playing in the Bundesliga, or Mark McKenzie playing in Belgium First League, or Miles, his resume, what he's done for Atlanta over these last years, it's been impressive. And then add to that group Walker, who's a veteran, who's been around, who's played a ton of games in MLS, and we think we have, a physical enough group of center backs, and it's time to get them some opportunities.
Next will be Brian Strauss from Sports Illustrated.
Thanks, guys. Greg, you referenced a couple times, I guess, to maybe noticing some issues with focus or attention or application that didn't thrill you at the beginning of the last camp. I'm curious if you've noticed the opposite this time. What have you seen so far in the first 2 or 3 days that
maybe leads you to believe that guys got the message and that things are in a different place? Have you done anything to facilitate that? And as sort of a semi follow-up, when you are missing guys like Gio and Christian, guys who players often rely on to work magic with the ball, to unbalance defenses, is that something that helps lift focus for guys, realizing that, all right, we can't count on Christian to get it done. We've got to do things collectively. We've got to work a little bit harder, to accomplish what we want to do. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think the second part of the question, our game model is based on the collective. It's based on guys running together, working together, creating space for each other. And I think when we're at our best, it's when we're playing collective soccer. Regarding the question about focus, part of our job before camp was to talk to each and every player prior to arriving into camp and just say to them, listen, here are the expectations for this camp. This is exactly what it's going to look like. Here's what we learned from last window. Here's what we know about the games. And then hear from them about how they process through the last round. And for us, it's all about learning. I say this every time we get in a press conference, but I don't think it's talked about enough how young this team is and how going through it for the first time is challenging. And, that's just part of it. And we're navigating through it, and guys are learning on the fly. And, but it is certainly part of what we're dealing with. What I have noticed from the guys is a different level of focus and, not getting ahead of ourselves, focusing on one game at a time and going from there.
Next will be Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Hey, Greg. When you talk about the need for verticality, how much of that is due to your players and how much is it what you'd like to see after watching Jamaica play its first 3 games? And also, you had said that the player's perspective with Weston is not understood. Isn't that partly on him for not addressing that publicly in the past month?
Repeat that second part of the question. You said the player's perspective? I didn't get that part.
Yeah,
Sorry.
You said in last week that we're too quick to condemn people
Right.
and not really understand
Right.
the player's perspective.
Yeah.
Isn't part of that on him from not addressing that publicly with us for
Yeah.
a month now?
Yeah, listen, I think the way we wanted to deal with that was partly internal, and we didn't give out a ton of information regarding what happened. But what I was inferring was, we're dealing with young players here, and I think and there's moments where there's going to be mistakes made, and I think it's just about being accountable for your mistakes and then learning and moving from there. And, you can see as a team, and you guys have been hearing all week, that's what we've done. Weston's going to start the game tomorrow. He's been focused coming to this week. And, we're not holding anything against him. Is he going to have to rebuild trust by a time period of showing that that he's the leader that we expect him to be? Of course. But there's nothing held against him, I think. And that's what I was going for. It's not this action happened, this is who this person is. That's what I was saying. We don't need to jump to that. We need to understand that these are young players that we're dealing with, and this is part of it. And I think, to me, it's just about tolerance, right? Having a certain level of tolerance with players and with the situation and with the guy's situation. So that's the answer to that. I was ranting so long, Ron, I forgot the first part of your question. Sorry about that. What was the first part of your question?
Jamaica and verticality.
Yeah.
How much is your own
Yep.
personnel and how much is wanting to play that way after having seen the way Jamaica plays?
Well, I thought it was, to me, it was more about reflecting on our games from the first window. And there's moments in the El Salvador game where we get the ball, there's a ton of space behind the back line, and we want to pass it to an open player so he can dribble instead of playing behind the line. So now the opponent's in a ton of trouble. So we didn't do that well enough. Then I look at the Canada game where it's a compact block. Why not try to get behind them with urgency more often? Why not break lines, draw them out, get behind them? We didn't do that enough. So I was reflecting more on what we saw in the first window in general and what I know we can do well. And when we do well, we're successful.
Of course, when I said we get back to you, I meant on 10 of the 11 starters for tomorrow night. We'll next go to Kevin Baxter from the Los Angeles Times.
Hey, Greg, thanks for your time. By the way, I didn't mean to insinuate that it's going to be an easy game tomorrow. I actually think Jamaica has the ability to pose some unique challenges for you, so I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
But I wanted to go on about the Austin thing when you talk about all the things that are here. What other things do you take into account? I know you were part of the site selection group. We got 3 MLS stadiums in for the rest of this year. Is creating that excitement and environment, but having it somewhat limited, so you're not using big football stadiums, does that help? I mean, creating that home field advantage?
Absolutely. When you think about, the design of these MLS stadiums, the architect crews have done a ton of work, and also have studied, how to create this environment that's going to be really conducive to soccer. When you think about the verticality of stadiums like Orlando or LAFC, you look at Austin as well, Columbus. These are you can tell that it's been thought out with, okay, how do we design a stadium that's really going to shine when you play soccer in it? And that's what we're talking about. Cincinnati's another one. Red Bull was one of the first ones in the United States to really have that vibe of a soccer stadium. So I think that it's important. Anytime we can get a home field advantage, we want to do so. And anytime we can create a great atmosphere for the players, for the fans, then we want to try to do that. And some things we take into consideration are travel, weather, atmosphere, field conditions, field size, where we're going next. All these things, are taken into consideration.
Next will be Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Hey, Greg, a couple quick questions for you. The first is, as we understand it, the policy in Panama is that unvaccinated people would have to quarantine for 3 days, and if that stays put, that might impact who you can have travel and be eligible for the game. How is that impacting right now your lineup selection for this game and for the next game? How many players would be affected? And then going back to the center backs, I wonder, how do things change not having a left-footed center back in this group? And I know Mark has played there, Walker's played there, Chris has played there a lot, but does it change kind of what you expect or look for out of that position? Thank you.
Yeah, well, you did a good job of answering that question yourself. That's a real pro. He knows his stuff. But no, I mean, that's essentially it, right? Mark's played there, Chris has played there, Walker's played there. They're all comfortable. Miles has even played there at times. So they're all comfortable playing on the left. And maybe you miss some of the diagonal passing as you're driving with the ball, but I think they're all comfortable enough to bring the ball and make that first pass into midfield. Regarding the Panama, we're still working through exactly what impact that's going to have on the roster. Right now we have everyone except one player that's fully vaccinated. Another player has one of his 2 shots, and we're going to have to be working through that and see how how he can be affected. And then, of course, the English situation that is changing daily, and we're figuring that out as well. We don't think it makes sense to travel Zach or Anthony there if they had to quarantine for 10 days on the back end. So the situation's fluid. It's changing by the day, and as we get more information, we'll make that known.
Next will be Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Doug.
You know where Jamaica is with innings. How do you expect them to play tomorrow, and how helpful, if at all, is it that you played them, or some of your guys played against some of their guys pretty recently in the Gold Cup? Thank you.
Listen, I think it's still early. After 3 games, I don't think it's panic mode for anyone in the table. They will be looking to get points this round and hang in there. This is about just hanging in there and every round chipping away at it until you get to that number where you're qualified. So, I expect there to be urgency with Jamaica. We know it's a good team. We know it's a physical team, and there's going to be some challenges that they bring to us. We're just going to have to be prepared for them.
We have time for a couple more questions, and we'll continue with Ryan Talmadge from Goal.com.
Hey, Greg, with this week, verticality and speed and breaking lines have been sort of the talking points. And when you talk about a fast, aggressive game, I'm sure Jamaica wouldn't be too mad playing a counter-attacking game going back and forth. So when you play a team like Jamaica, is it that attack is the best defense and keeping them pinned back is the best way to stop them? How do you kind of balance control versus aggression and kind of keep that game in the way that you want this game to be played?
Well, I think, to talk about breaking lines and playing vertical doesn't mean you're throwing unnecessary numbers forward. I think they're two different things. I think we can accomplish the two with having a balanced attack. When I look at our game, we're at our best when we're playing fast, when we're playing, behind the opponent, as most teams do, right? This isn't like I'm not inventing something here. I think anytime you can turn the defense around, it causes problems, and it's just about the timing and the precision to be able to do that. But I certainly think you can do, you can play that way without unbalancing yourselves, and the key to the game is going to be balance, for sure.
Next will be Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thanks, Michael, and Greg, thanks for the time. Slightly different subject of conversation. Hard to believe that tomorrow is going to be 20 years to the day since one of the most famous U.S. men's qualifiers of all time for a lot of reasons. I know you didn't play. I don't remember whether you were there or not, but what are your memories of that day and everything that went into it? The fact we couldn't watch it live on TV and so on and so forth.
Yeah, again, I think it's a big moment in our history. I think it started off I guess that generation of players stepping forward and saying, okay, this is our turn. And in general, I think anytime you get to play Mexico in a qualifier, it's a big game. And to start that off, that tradition in Columbus, I think was something that was special. And you try to share experiences with the group, right? And you try to tell them what it's about. But until they're really going through it, it's hard to understand. But those are some memories that certainly stick with me and are important for U.S. soccer.
I think he was asking about the USA-Jamaica game.
Oh, excuse me.
The one in Foxborough where we qualified for the World Cup.
I wasn't there. Excuse me. Sorry. Wrong game. Sorry about that. Anytime you qualify is an amazing accomplishment. And I know that, I wasn't there at that game in particular, but being there in 2005 when we qualified, you just realize how it's the culmination of hard work over many years. And then you get to realize your dream of playing in a World Cup. Something we talked to the players about this camp was, we're doing it to get to the World Cup. When you're at the World Cup, it's an event that, it's hard to describe, but the whole world is watching, and it's something special when your country's pulling for you.
Do you remember whether you watched the game live? Because I think it got bumped off TV.
I was in Europe then. I think I don't know exactly where I was, but I remember waking up and seeing the result. I know that.
Thanks.
Jonathan, you are correct. The game was scheduled to be broadcast on ABC, and due to the start of hostilities in Afghanistan, the game was not shown live. It was aired the next day. So more information on that day from 20 years ago you can find in a great story by Michael Lewis on ussoccer.com. Our last question for Greg will go to Daniel Nora from Univision.
Hi, Greg. I want to ask you about a couple of guys that are back in the roster, and I know they're very important in the system because they understand it very well. Suarez and Arriola. What do you expect from them in this week? Because you didn't come with them in September.
Yeah, every window's different, and it seems obvious to say, but you have a roster of who you think it's going to be, and then until the day the camp starts, you don't know. And this camp we had to make some adjustments and shift some people around because of some absentees. But when you talk about Paul and Giassi, those are two guys that have been around, are familiar with what we're doing, and have always made an impact in their way. Paul's a guy that works tremendously hard. He's a team player, and he's skilled at the winger position of making an impact, whether that's crossing or finishing himself. And Giassi's a guy that sets the tone for the group, the way he works and the way he can finish off his chances. But I think just his presence on the field. So I expect them both to play roles this week. With 3 games in 7 days, I'm sure they're going to be on the field.
Thanks to Greg, you ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and also a special thanks to those listening in on the official U.S. Soccer app. USA Jamaica, Thursday, October 7th, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, live on ESPN2, Univision, and 2-Day NA. Thanks again, and have a good afternoon.